She's the ultimate woman in the chair. That's right, we're talking about Sage. Hi, my name is Nando, and in this series I take a character from Marvel Comics, talk about their backstory, their power set, and their personality, give you some reading recommendations, and all of that is because this specific character is getting introduced this week into the collectible card game Marvel Snap. So if you've always just wanted to know about this character, this video is for you, and if you want to hear about is this Marvel Snap card a good version of this character from the comics, that comes at the end. And also, everybody that's been saying nice things on the Marvel Snap subreddit, I appreciate it. I love you guys. Let's talk about Sage. Sage is one of my favorite ones of these I've gotten to make a video on so far. I don't really know why. Partially it's because her comic history is kind of interesting. Like, she's one of a couple characters, I'm trying to think of who else has done this, where they've retconned their history to make them go from being a character that's like someone you'd kind of maybe recognize to someone who is now very important, and it gives that character a lot more depth. I think one of the other things I really like about Sage is that she is both an incredibly capable character and a big mess, and I like that about a character. So Sage first appeared kind of in Uncanny X-Men issue 132, written by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, with art by John Byrne, Terry Austin, Linus Wein, and Tom Orzechowski. So this is a Hellfire Club issue. This is an issue where the X-Men are fighting the Hellfire Club. And Sage as Sage is not in this issue, but a character named Tessa is. So real quick warning for everybody that's watching this on work computers, the Hellfire Club dress their men like they're Jack Benjamin Franklin, and the women in the Hellfire Club, whether they are like, you know, members that have like a status, right? Emma Frost is the White Queen, so that's like a high up rank in the organization, or Tessa, who is just a member of the Hellfire Club, kind of an assistant, all dressed like Victoria's Secret models. And it's, you know, it just is what it is, and you kind of get used to it, because in the comics in like the 2000s, she dresses like everybody in the 2000s did, like she was in the Matrix. But every so often, like, Tessa's backstory will come up and you'll see flashes from her past, and it'll be like, oh, here she was in the Matrix, she was in the Matrix, oh yeah, underwear model, okay. And listen, it's weird, the Hellfire Club are the bad guys, but whatever. So this character Tessa is the assistant to Sebastian Shaw. She appears, I believe, I can't remember when, to be some sort of telepathic mutant who works for Shaw, and we know that Shaw is the leader of the Hellfire Club. He's the Black King. Out of everybody that's like associated with the Hellfire Club, which is this kind of cloak and dagger secret society that's existed, I believe, since the founding of the United States, so like they're 1700s, and that's why they all look like they're from the 1700s. But these guys secretly control everything, like the Stonecutters in Simpsons. So historically, there's this big beef between the mutant members of the Hellfire Club, which are like Sebastian Shaw, his girlfriend Lord Chantal, Emma Frost, Leland, the second in command to Sebastian Shaw, and Tessa, Shaw's trusted assistant. After the human members of the Hellfire Club try to kill the mutants and end up killing Lord Chantal, Sebastian Shaw takes over. He kills all the humans, except for, I think, Donald Pierce. I feel like Donald Pierce hangs around for a little bit, and he's like a cyborg, so it's kind of fine. But either way, the Hellfire Club becomes like the mutant organization. So Tessa's part of this, and you'll see her in the background of these books. She's helping Sebastian Shaw do stuff. She seems smart. She's got some sort of psychic power, something like that. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. Time passes. And then in the 2000s, a character gets introduced into the X-Men named Sage. And this is the character that was Tessa. But like, okay, so first of all, I never said what this character's real name was. Is it Tessa? You kind of assume it is. We don't know. We've never learned this character's real name because she was not always a member of the Hellfire Club. She was always a mutant, or at least like as long as kind of her story when she was a teenager, she had mutant powers, which I will get to. Like before any of these other stories happen, she's in a war-torn part of the Balkans, and she bumps into Professor Xavier, who has just lost the use of his legs. She helps him, and she's like basically a child soldier at this point. And does like a bunch of murders for him and like to protect them. And Professor X is like, this kid, she's important. Like she's A, she needs my guidance because I'm so helpful, and B, like she has a really good mutant power that we can use to do good in the world for mutant kind. But instead of training Sage, Tessa, whatever, like a member of the X-Men would usually be trained, he instead secretly trained her to master her mutant abilities, and then sent her in as a spy to infiltrate the Hellfire Club. So that's why Sage is part of the Hellfire Club. Tessa is an identity that she creates to infiltrate the Hellfire Club. But yeah, we've never found out her real name. She has another like alias she goes by, but that's also clearly a persona that she's cooked up to do more spy stuff. So like that's one of the things I think I like about Sage, is she's kind of mysterious in a way that a lot of these characters aren't. Like even though we've seen parts of her backstory, she's not secretly related to anybody. She is just a, you know, kid from a war-torn part of the world who fell in with Professor X, and then everything got way worse. Eventually, a member of the Hellfire Club, who was like the evil person who invented the Hellfire Club back in the 1700s, who somehow is still alive, went back and tried to kill Sage because of a poker game that she helped Sebastian Shaw win. And that's where she got these very famous markings on her face. They're like little lines or scars. They seem like tattoos. It's actually this guy made markings just like kind of cut into her face. So they're little scars. At that moment, she was saved by Storm of the X-Men. And Storm's like, hey, I know you're a good guy. How about you come work with the X-Men and you can help us out and it'd be cool. And that's the Extreme X-Men. So this is like when Sage actually becomes a member of one of these teams. And this is the first time she is actually herself. Okay, so like physical things. She has the scars. She has like white skin, right? Like whiter than me, which is saying something. But like she has like, you know, marble skin, black hair, wears red glasses. That's usually it. You know, she doesn't have a whole lot of like identifiers the same way that like Rogue has their famous streak. It's really just like you see this person and you're like, that character could be from the distance, could be Domino, you know, it could be Celine. There's a lot of characters this could be. We'll say she tends to wear jackets. She's big on coats because, again, she was big in comics during this era where everyone dressed like they were from the Matrix. And her glasses are traditionally red. They're also kind of computers usually. I think she invented them. I would have to imagine she did, or she just bought them from someone. Sage's mutant ability is complicated. Basically, she is a living supercomputer, so her brain can do all kinds of different calculations. So at the same time, Sage can talk to you, and then in the back of her head, be, you know, finding all of the digits of pi, and then in the back of her head, reading some book, like scanning information she has already read for new information, because she also has a photographic memory. She's faster than any supercomputer, at least it exists in the current time of the X-Men universe, although there's pretty good supercomputers, so I'd have to assume she's close. But usually Sage acts as the guy in the chair. Now that's not to say she can't fight, because she also is able to like mimic and learn fighting styles the same way the Taskmaster can, or Echo. She can kind of see do it once and then she can pick up on it. She also, because of her like super mind, and one of the things Professor X trained her to do was use that super mind to have like super control over her body. So Sage has like total control of her body to the point where she can say like, my adrenaline receptors are going up, I have to, you know, like counteract them so that I can maintain a heart rate. You know, like she talks like kind of mechanically, but that is also like she can look at someone fighting and then kind of immediately train her muscles to do that. So she's a really good fighter. It doesn't come up that often, but she can do it. She's also kind of a telepath. So again, because of her fine control over her mind and body, she is able to access like your thoughts, which is not that impressive, honestly, in the X-Men universe. Like she's not a great telepath, but she can do it. But she can also like access when she's accessing your mind, she can like read your physiology. And once she's done with that in the past, is use that to access mutant powers that have been dormant in other characters. So she can like turn on your mutant ability, which is pretty cool. It's unclear because when she's had alternate personalities, she's also had extreme telepathy and telekinesis, and like telekinesis and telepathy obviously usually linked. Like characters like Jean Grey tend to have both. It is unclear if she always has those powers, if they just come with that other identity. One explanation that I've read that I kind of like is like Cable has a very high level of psychic power, but because of the techno-organic virus, he has to use a lot of that psychic power to keep the techno-organic virus at bay. So that's why he isn't, you know, constantly doing cool psychic stuff. Sage might be the same way, where she is constantly using a lot of her psychic energy to just keep her mind together because she's holding so much information, doing so much computation. And if she wasn't doing that, she'd be able to just fly around like Goku, and that'd be kind of cool. But I actually like this version of her more because she's incredibly useful, right? Like the X-Men don't need another person flying around doing telepathy and stuff, but they do need somebody who's able to analyze everything and look at all the footprints and come up with a billion plans that nobody can figure out. Sage has been on a couple of teams, like I said, so she went from being a random person fighting in some war to Xavier's secret spy on the Hellfire Club. Then she joins the Extreme X-Men, which was Storm's team of X-Men. After that, Storm officially starts a team called the XSE, the Extreme Sanctions Executive. That can't be it. No, that's it. Sage is part of that team. It's a lot of the people from the Extreme X-Men team. Then Sage joins New Excalibur. So this is the second generation of Excalibur. So like I said, it's like this came up last week because Nocturne is in this, because Nightcrawler was in it before. So like Brian Braddock obviously still around, Juggernaut, Dazzler. Sage is part of that team. And on all of these teams, she basically does the same thing. She's in the chair, she's doing computation, she's coming up with plans, she's analyzing strengths and weaknesses and all that, and sometimes she's in the field. Sage traditionally uses some guns, although a lot of the time that's not, like, she's not like, I don't know, jumping around doing backflips, shooting lots of people. She just kind of has guns just in case. But New Excalibur, because of their connection with certain members of that team, has a run-in with the Exiles. So the team that is the, main characters behind this season of Marvel Snap. And like Nocturne is currently on New Excalibur, Psylocke is on the Exiles, so her brother Captain Britain is on New Excalibur. So they all meet up and have a big fight. This is Die by the Sword. A book that ends with Roma, the omniversal guardian of everything, transferring all of her knowledge to Sage and pretty much driving Sage, to madness, because she already had a computer brain, and then she gets all the information from the universe, and she's basically like, I can't go back to Earth, because if someone was able to read my mind, that would be really bad, because they get all this. So she's like, I need somewhere I can hide. I'm going to go with the Exiles. So Sage joins the Exiles and becomes their guy in a chair, hangs out at the Panopticon, and is part of the Exiles for a while. She joined her former New Excalibur team member Dazzler on a team that was basically the new Extreme X-Men. They were like multiversal Avengers, so kind of similar to what the Exiles were doing. And then kind of next thing that happens is Krakoa, so this modern age that just ended, where she was the man in a chair behind X-Force. So Sage is great. So power-wise, she's cool because she can do a lot of things. She serves a very specific purpose. It's great to have her on a team because it's like, yep, Sage, go into the corner, do computer stuff, and put on your fancy glasses and like move around your hands like it's the Minority Report, and then you'll tell us where everybody is, and we'll succeed. But one of the other things I love about Sage is because her life has been such a disaster, and she really does not like it. Like, she is, like I said, she's kind of robotic. So if you ask her, like, Sage, are you mad at Professor X for having you be a spy? She'll say things like, while I am angry at Professor X, I do not hold grudges, and I live in the moment because that is the optimal way to be. But at the same time, you're like, she hates him. Like, that is the meanest thing she can possibly say. So that's kind of fun. I like her as a team member for Bishop. I like that she's kind of a cop. The same way that like Bishop being a cop in the X-Men is kind of annoying. Bishop being a cop in the X-Men is like the least annoying thing about Bishop to me. Bishop trying to kill Hope Summers is the most annoying thing about Bishop to me. But like, I guess I like her as a cop because, and this is something that you see in New Excalibur, and you see it in the Extreme X-Men age, like she does fit into this very police procedural kind of X-Men vibe. They have her show up in the new X-Men, it's like the Grant Morrison X-Men era, to solve a murder with Bishop. And I don't know, Sage she fits into that role really well. And someone like Bishop, who is also like all business, knows everything, very few characters can kind of sidle up to Bishop and then just work, and then like, Sage is one of them. So yeah, she's got a great role on a team. She's got pretty cool power, and we don't know the upper limits of it. We don't know her backstory. And the other thing I do like about Sage, she's an alcoholic. It's something that I think she's worked through more or less in very recent years, but her deal has always been like her brain is constantly, firing on a million cylinders, and she can't really like concentrate or focus, especially when she has to do a lot of things at once. So in an effort to dull that, Sage has turned to alcohol, and sometimes it's more manageable than others. But again, I do like that they made this character like pretty flawed, and it is pretty widely understood to be something that like people don't like about Sage and the way that she works. But either Sage is on a team full of anti-heroes, so nobody cares, or it's like something that is eventually brought up through the team. But she's not like, I don't know. I do like that about her. It gives her a little bit more personality. And it does, you show that Sage has been feeling all of this, right? Like all of these different killings, and especially with the X-Force, like borderline war crimes that she's been doing, are weighing on her because she is a person, even if she doesn't show it. As far as reading recommendations, okay, so there's 2 issues of extreme X-Men that are really helpful. I don't remember which is which. I'm pretty sure 41, it's at the 41, 42, or 43. It's part of this arc where they go after an old Hellfire Club guy who's possessing people and doing bad stuff. One of them is basically Sage's origin issue, where we learn a lot of things about her. A little bit earlier in that book, I want to say maybe around issue 8, we also get that origin because Sebastian Shaw is trying to reclaim Sage and turn her back into Tessa because she was really useful to him. Like how, finding a mutant assistant who'll do murders and can also remember every single thing ever. Apparently that's not super easy to come by. So you get that for Sage. I would say, like, I didn't used to like Extreme X-Men, and I'm still not a humongous fan of the art, but I do think she reads really well on those, and she's very fun. It shows her being very, complicated and competent, especially near the end of that book. I would say the other thing you could read is New Excalibur, which I know last week I said I hadn't read. I've read some of it. It's good Sage, especially because right off the bat, Sage is in charge, and she's like, I'm Sage, you do what I say, just trust me, do it, and then we'll be fine. And that's also part of what's kind of cool about it. I don't know, I just appreciate the competence of Sage. It's fun. So those are my 2 reading recommendations. All of that is written by Chris Claremont, so it's a very Chris Claremont character. So yeah, Extreme X-Men 6, Extreme X-Men 41. If I'm off by 1 or 2 issues, like if you read that issue and the next one, you'll eventually get it. But that's where we get a lot of Sage's origin from. And hasn't really been anything. The only thing that I know that she's been a big part of is the Gifted show, which again, as of now, I still have not watched. So I'm gonna watch it eventually. Although I don't know if we're getting another Gifted character for a while. But besides that, I don't think she's ever been in any of the movies, and that's mostly because they've barely ever done the Hellfire Club. So when they did, they didn't have time for Sage. But I do think she would be good in a movie, and she's a cool character. In Marvel Snap, Sage is a 3-cost, 0 power with the on reveal effect, plus 2 power for each different power among all other cards here. So this one was initially a little bit confusing to me. I didn't really know how this worked, and it's not including that one. So like if she is, she doesn't count as one of the cards. So let's say a location can have 8 cards on it on your side and the other side. That's something I didn't realize, is it counts the other sides. And if, so let's say all the cards except for, the last spot where you're going to put Sage, so the other 7 all have different powers. If you put Sage on that spot, she becomes 314. And you don't have a lot of control over that because obviously you're not putting the cards on your opponent's side of the field. Although, with the Green Goblin, maybe that'll make sense. But, it can be really helpful. I think, obviously, it's going to work with bounce decks. It's going to work with any deck where the idea is to fill up the board. It's a 3-cost, so this works with Silver Surfers. I would say as far as friends of hers, I guess bounce deck, so she works with Bishop. That's good, right off the bat. So yeah, other characters she's going to be friends with. All the characters that are concerned with filling up a spot. So Dazzler, her teammate from New Excalibur, they're going to work well together. Nocturne is a 3-cost, so they'll work well together. But yeah, it's going to be like a lot of Hope Summers, a lot of Angela, Kitty Pryde, Beast, so X-Men. Who are her best friends in the comics? I would say Bishop is probably the character she's got the closest relationship with. She's close with Rogue, she's close with Gambit, close with Professor X, kind of. Hellfire Club guys like Shaw, I wouldn't say she works particularly well with Shaw, but again, she's at 3-cost, so that puts her in a Silver Surfer deck, like she makes sense there. Works well with Nebula because Nebula is going to be encouraging your opponent to play cards on that lane. That's really the goal, right, of Sage. You can get her to be like a 3-6, that's not that hard, but that's also not that great of a card. But if you can get her to be like that 314, you've got to maybe play around with your opponent. And that's why I think she is a pretty good representation of her card, is she's all about tactics and getting everybody on the board exactly where she wants them. So she lays a trap. You put a Nebula down, maybe you Professor X off a lane so that the opponent only has options to play in this one lane, and then you play a Sage at the very end for barely any cost, and then boom, 14 power. Hey, she'll also work well with Miss Marvel. I don't think they were on the Exiles at the same time because Kamala was on them recently. And there are only a couple of cards like that where the text reads something if your cards here have different power. So yeah, I guess Miss Marvel she'll work well with. It is funny now I'm looking at it because so many of the X-Men are 3-cost cards that she is going to work really well with X-Men. Rogue, Gambit, Hope, Jean. Oh, Jean, she's going to work really well with Jean. I don't think Sage and Jean are very close. And Sage was on the most recent incarnation of X Factor that was led by Beast. But yeah, I would say the 2 most interesting connections she's got to characters that she would spend time with. I would say are probably Dazzler. I think Dazzler's pretty interesting. Because filling up locations is important. And then Bishop, because she'll be in a bounce deck. She'll be pretty handy in that. So playing her in Bishop is a good combination, can be a good combination. Also, people ask why does she look like Jubilee? She does kind of look like Jubilee. You know, they shouldn't both wear the same yellow jacket. She doesn't always wear the yellow jacket. Like I said, usually the black jacket. And I think they probably should have just stuck with that. The yellow jacket, as far as I know, is definitely from her X Factor days. She's gone through a lot of costumes. Not all of them have been great. Again, starts with a very simple black leather after the Hellfire Club. But like when she's an X-Men, she goes to like this black and purple situation. They've always been trying to figure out kind of what her look is. And yeah, I'm not in love with this only because people there, you're right, she does kind of look like Jubilee. So yeah, overall, I think Sage is a pretty good card. Like, I don't know if I'm going to use her a ton. I'm definitely going to get her because I like the X-Men. But I think as far as an interpretation of that character in Marvel Snap, very good. I like her. But yeah, the season's been pretty good so far. I don't know what it is. I think they usually do a pretty good job with X-Men. I think it's because their characters have so much history and their powers are so all over the place that it's like, oh yeah, that is kind of what you do. So I think that is, I think that's neat. Besides that, like, watch my other videos, share them. Again, thank you, Marvel Snap subreddit, for the kind words. And I always see people commenting there, which is cool. I will be working on more of these for the rest of the characters that are in this season, obviously, and the next seasons. And I will have a video coming out soon on Nando V Movies, my other channel, that will be a pitch for my Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants, like, prequel movie, which does feature Sage. So if you like Sage, she will be there. And yeah, that's all I got. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.